My name is Joe Paluska, and I lead the communications team for Better Place. Welcome. Today's press conference includes Shai Agassi, founder and chief executive officer for Better Place, Mr. Anders Eldrup, chief executive officer for Dong Energy, and also I'd like to officially welcome Jens Moberg to the Better Place team. Regrettably, the Minister of Climate and Energy won't be joining us this morning. This morning's session will last about 30 minutes. We'll have a Q&A for the media afterwards. And what I would ask you in advance is to please identify your name and your outlet before you ask a question. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Shai Agassi, Chief Executive Officer and founder of Better Place. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. It's a great day for all of us, and it's a fantastic event for us to share with you this morning. Dong Energy and Better Place have signed an agreement and are starting and sharing and funding Better Place Denmark. This is a continuation of our effort from earlier in 08, in March of 08. We now have an agreement of investment in the sum of 103 million euro, about 800 million kroner. This was an agreement in which both companies will fund the development and the installation of an electric recharge grid network across Denmark. Most of the money that we need has been now raised. We will continue to raise a small amount of money, about 35 million euro, in addition to that. Not all of it needs to come in these early stages. We've used for this round, for the work that we've done between the two of us, the work of our advisor Goldman Sachs through this effort, and this shows you that even in these tough times, good ideas, good companies can get funded, can bring in new ideas into the market, and effectively all of that money will be used in installation here in Denmark, in effect creating jobs in a local market. In this green collar jobs in installation and setup of a network. We also have fantastic news today, and after a long time we've concluded our search for a CEO for a Better Place Denmark. This has been one of our goals, was to bring in leadership to the caliber of Jens Moberg, who most of you know formerly of Microsoft. Jens and I have met earlier in 2008. We've had a large number of long discussions over the values, over the leadership that we want to take in transportation, in curbing the effects of climate change here in Denmark, and letting Denmark lead the way for the rest of Europe. Jens will build the first subsidiary in Europe for Better Place here in Denmark, but also will assist me with developing and expanding the footprint for a Better Place to the rest of Europe under his guidance in sort of an umbrella relationship on top of the business development efforts that we're doing in Europe. This is the kind of leadership that we were hoping for. Anders and I have always talked about why Denmark and why Denmark leads the way. We've seen the role the government has taken in setting an example for the electrification of transport and taking away emissions, in being a leader in climate-related efforts, both in generation with a 20% generation that comes from wind, but also in setting up the right policies for adoption of electric vehicles. And we are happy to find such a great leader that can execute this effort on the ground. We're still on the same track with the same dates as we've set up front. Our goal is as we've stated back in March of 08, to have a network fully functional in mass production for vehicles in Denmark across the country by mid-2011. This goal has been top of mind for us. We have continued development throughout the last 12 months, and most of the effort has been in Israel. We will bring a lot of what we have developed and tried out in Israel into the rest of the world markets. We have announced our first switch station, which will be laid out in Japan, in Yokohama, in April of this year, 3 months from now, within 100 days. That's the first switch station that will prove that a car can switch 1,000 times. We will actually have a car that goes back and forth and switches about 30, 40 times during a day, and we'll do it for about 30 days, and there'll be a webcam, and we project it here in Denmark so people can actually see it happening. We're still aiming to put demonstration center in Denmark this year. We're hoping to put a demonstration project before COP15 so that we can actually make this one of the most demonstrable projects of Danish initiatives to take away CO2 emission before the meeting in December. When Better Place Denmark is in place and working, about 17% of Danish emissions could be taken completely out with the conversion away from fossil fuels to electrified vehicles, matched with renewable generation by Dong of electrons, creating a zero carbon footprint end to end, as we stated up front. I think the combination of funding on one hand to put this kind of a network in place, as well as the personal leadership and the team that's actually being put in place to execute, demonstrate that Better Place is delivering on the goals, the very aggressive goals that we've set in 2008, and demonstrates to a certain degree our separation from other companies that have talked about electric vehicles in the past but have not taken a systematic approach. And we believe that with today's climate it will be very hard to catch up, both in a sense of other companies that are trying to do these things, but also in a sense of countries that have decided to take a sort of a back seat and wait for things to happen. And I think the benefit for the early markets, in particular here in Denmark, will be such leadership that will enable not only creation of local jobs, but also creation of export and creation of new ideas and new innovations that can be used outside in other markets around the world. For those of you who have not been following Better Place over the last 12 months, we have announced 6 networks. The first one in Israel, the second one in Denmark, and then recently in Australia, in Hawaii, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and last couple of weeks in Ontario, Canada. So this is a concept that has now been rolling out in a number of countries, and we expect this to continue to happen throughout 2009 and 10. And I want to thank you for the trust, and I want to thank you for the great working relationship we've established, and I'm sure that with Jens' leadership we'll be able to be successful together. Thank you.
Yes. Also, a great thanks for me to Shai. We have had a very interesting work together. Establishing this quite new business is really a venture, an interesting route to pursue. So we are excited that we are the first company, the first place in Europe that we start up these electric cars. And of course, we think it's a great trust also that we are chosen as the first a party for cooperation with Better Place, and we are very thankful for that, and we are dedicated that we will show our ability to fulfill it. It is exciting for Dong Energy because this is part of the very big transition of our energy company from the old age to the new age, from traditionally energy company to the company of tomorrow. We are, as of today, we have produced 70% of the wind turbines, of the offshore wind turbines in the world. So we are the world leader of offshore wind turbines, and this goes very well hand in hand with electric cars. Because when we have that much wind energy, then we have unstable energy, and we need solutions to accommodate the unstable wind production. And you can do that you can store it in batteries, and when you have batteries, then the next step is you must have cars. So we see this Denmark as a front runner on the wind side, Dong Energy as a leader in this area, the logical next step is, of course, electrical cars. And that's a step we are taking now, and that's why we are so excited that we have come this far. We see great opportunities for rolling this out, and especially we see great opportunities because we've been so lucky to have Jens on the team, and I also would like to thank you for joining the team, and we look very much forward to the cooperation with you and the whole team. And we hope that Denmark on this area can be a model company, a model country, as we've been on other environmentally areas, and I'm sure with the team that has now been created, this should be possible. So by that, I will hand over to you, Jens. Thank you.
Thank you, Anders, for your confidence. Thank you, Shai, for your confidence. It's a great pleasure I can stand here today as the CEO of Better Place Denmark. This is a wonderful new chapter of my life that will begin. My last chapter has been 14 great years with Microsoft, where it's been an honor and a privilege to sit in the executive team led by Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer. I have learned a lot, had a lot of fun, and had the opportunity to generate some pretty amazing business results. However, one thing that's been on my mind more and more over the recent years is that, as some of you know, I have two sons, Jacob on 15 and Jesper on 12. And my wife and I, Inge, had been discussing a lot, what is it that we will be leaving behind to our kids? What kind of world, environment will we be leaving to Jacob and Jesper and all the kids of this world? And we have been concerned about the sustainability of our economy and how we treat the climate. So given the opportunity to be a small part of helping our environment and create a sustainable economy was something that excited me a lot. So when Shai presented me of the Better Place concept, where we can help in Denmark save the environment, as Shai mentioned, for 17% of the total CO2 emission. Because when each of us drive in our car, then depending on the mileage, then we leave behind in the environment somewhere between 3 and 6 tons of CO2 every year. And that we can change. And at the same time, we also know that as consumers, we will not change unless that we have the kind of convenience and safety and comfort that we're used to. And with the partnership, Renault and Nissan, and with other car manufacturers to follow, we will provide cars that gives us the same safety, the same comfort that we're used to today. And we'll be able to deliver that at a more attractive price. So I think that the whole mission, the whole vision of Better Place is something that's very appealing and something that really spoke to me. So given the opportunity to be part of the leadership team and to lead this in Denmark was just a chapter I had to start. And to start a new chapter, you have to close the old one. So on Monday morning will be my first day in Better Place Denmark. And Denmark is really, I think it's super exciting that Denmark is the first country in Europe where we'll be rolling out Better Place. And it's great that we have a government that have seen ahead and said that we want to support the transition from gasoline and diesel cars to electric vehicles. So until 2012, that Danish cars has no registration fees for EVs. And that the government has said that at least until 2015, there will also be a very favorable solution. So that we will support the transition from diesel and gasoline cars to EVs. So that's very powerful that we have that kind of cooperation and support from the Danish government. And then I think that Anders and Dong has signed up to be a partner in this is something that's very powerful. And then finally, I think that the Danish population will be eager to grasp the concept of EVs. because Danish people in general are concerned about the environment. And I think also they will be willing to make the change when they see that this will give them the safety and the comfort that they're used to at a price that is lower than they have today when you look at the total cost of ownership. So Denmark, I think, is the ideal country for this rollout to start, but this is a global concept, so we are also dependent on our success globally. Then, when will this start? I would say that I cannot wait to get, my first EV, my electric vehicle. I'm really looking forward to that. And there will be a few cars in Denmark in 2009. In 2010, we'll start a broader kind of testing. And in 2011, we'll be ready for the mass market. To make that happen, we need to make significant investments in 2009 already, and also throughout 2010. Because we need to ensure that we have the infrastructure needed to give our first customers a super customer experience. So when I'm living in Lyngby, just north of Copenhagen, and I'm going to Aarhus to visit good friends doing business, I want to take my electric vehicle, my electric car. But then, as the mileage, or the reach today, is roughly 160 kilometers, I cannot get all the way to Aarhus. So somewhere on Fyn, I'll just drive off the road, go into something that will look like a gas station, and then rather than filling my tank, I'll get my battery replaced. It'll take less time than it takes to fill the gas tank, and I don't have to get out of my car. So after having done that small thing, taking less than 5 minutes, then I'll be on my way again. And when I get to Aarhus, if I'm staying there for the night, I'll probably recharge at Hotel Marseillesborg or wherever I'm staying. And then next day, I have a fully charged car. And after my meetings in Aarhus, I can start driving back. And then I do again the small, less than 5 minutes operation at Fyn, and I get back to Lyngby, and then I replug, and next morning I have a fully charged car. So we're building that infrastructure, putting up the charge points, and putting up the battery exchange stations. That will create many jobs in Denmark. That will create hundreds of jobs establishing that infrastructure. And we think that we are being a small part in realizing the Prime Minister's ambition that he spoke about in his New Year's speech, where he said that he wanted to make Denmark a green winner nation. So we're being a small part in helping the government, the Danish society, in realizing that mission. In Better Place also, we are 5 employees today. We will grow that number. So just in Better Place alone as a company, we'll also be creating 100 jobs over the coming years. So all in all, I'm very pleased to be here today. Monday will be my first day, and I'm looking forward to staying in contact with many of you, because there'll be many more news following as we see this concept rolling out and this becoming real. Real to the benefit of the climate, of the environment, saving tons and tons and tons of CO2, and also making Denmark less dependent on oil, which I think is also something that's really in our all interest. And finally, we'll be giving consumers the safety, the comfort, the benefits that they're used to today at a lower price. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, welcome Jens to the team. With that, we'll take questions from journalists. Again, if you could please identify the outlet you're with before you ask a question. And we have a few microphones that we can hand out.
Hello. Oh. My name is Emil Ditzel. I'm from Berlingske Business. This is to Anders. Doesn't this investment collide with your investments in second generation bioethanol?
The answer is no, but I could elaborate on that. You're right. We are making quite an interesting investment just now, making bioethanol out of straw. This is front-edge technology. We hope to be able to produce at the end of this year bioethanol that can be put into the gasoline tank. But the way we look upon this is that it will not be the case that all cars are electric, at least not for many, many years, and probably not at all. So we must look into a future where we have a variety of cars. We have hopefully a big number of electric cars. We will have diesel cars, hopefully with bioethanol, and probably we will also have hybrids and other sorts of cars. So there will be a big variety of cars. The target is that we must move the way that transportation overall is less polluting. And the best way, the most efficient way is the electric car, because if it's fueled by wind power, it will zero pollution. But as we can't imagine all cars to be electric, then we must improve the other ones as well.
Hello, Bertel Fruland from the Newswire Direct. How will the economics be for a person who owns an electric vehicle? Taking the famous trip from Copenhagen to Aarhus, will that be more or less expensive than filling up your car with gas?
You're asking me? So the trip to Aarhus will be less expensive. So you can say that the acquisition of the car, if you take long term, then long term the production of electric vehicle will be less costful than a diesel or gasoline engine. If you just think about it, think about the number of moving parts in a diesel or gasoline car. You know, you have all things moving around and going around, and you have exploding fuel cells and all kind of things. And it's really, a very complex thing, while an electric engine is a relatively simple thing. But of course, the automakers will have to transition from their mass production line today, producing gasoline and diesel cars, to electric vehicles. And when they do that, I'm convinced that the production cost of an electric vehicle will be lower than the production cost of a gasoline or diesel car, which means that the acquisition cost, disregarding taxes, will be less. And then if you look at a diesel or gasoline car, then if you take the total amount of energy stored in 1 liter, then in fact it's a relatively low percentage that gets out to the front wheels, because a lot is done in kind of, the whole thing, the pistons moving up and down and so on, and the cooling of the engines and all the things that have to move around. While you can say that if you think about the same for an electric vehicle, it's a much higher effectiveness that you have. So all in all, the cost will be less. And I cannot give you exact percentage right now, but I'll get to that.
Next question, please.
Yeah, this is Peter Nyholm from Jyllandsposten. I was just wondering how far do you plan to go on one full battery, and at what speed do you plan to travel?
So certainly, you can, go above the speed limit anywhere you want in Denmark. And we're not encouraging that, but you can easily go 130 kilometers an hour, and you can also exceed that. And maybe more importantly, you can say acceleration will be, around 0 to 100 in less than 10 seconds.
Another question right here, please.
How far you can go on one charge? That's roughly 160 kilometers. And that number will increase over the years because batteries will become more and more effective. But today you can go 160 kilometers, and even I know that Shai has been working with some tests where we have been able to push that to 240.
Next question.
Torben Arendt from the Danish Car Consumer Organization. What makes you believe that the car industry, the OEMs, can supply that big number of electric cars in so short time? I mean, alone in Denmark, you've been talking about 500,000. That should between 2012 and 2020, that 8 years, and on the worldwide that would be several millions. I mean, those cars don't even exist today. What makes you think that this is possible?
I'll give you two perspectives. One comes from my good friend, the president of Renault, Patrick Pelata, because I have been annoying him with the exact same question for about 2 years. And at one of our meetings, he looked at me and said, Shai, 40,000, 400,000, or 4 million, it's just a question of how much metal we put through our machines. So you tell me how much you want, and I'll put that many cars in your hands. Just sell them. So if you look at the industry today, anybody who gets an order in hundreds of thousands has capacity, has machines. A lot of the governments, as you can see, are willing to jump in right now and assist the car industry if they can find demand for the cars. The problem that we have is that in a market where the price of gasoline fluctuates so much, you don't know what would be the price as a consumer at the time you want to sell the car. And a lot of the consumers are sitting back right now and waiting for that price to stabilize before they buy a car. If the price stabilizes low, they'll buy a big car. If the price stabilizes high, they buy a small car. And part of the good news of what we're doing here is we take away that question. We're enabling a consumer to come buy a car without a dependency on the price of oil as a factor in that decision. Now I want to put you for a second in a different perspective, because there has been a study that came out from MIT that said that by 2016 there will be 10 million electric cars on the road. It's a very interesting study because it's probably one of the most optimistic and pessimistic studies I've ever heard of in my entire life. On the optimistic side, we're talking about going from 100,000 electric cars by 2011, which is sort of the goal that we're having, to 10 million cars by 2016. So you're looking at 100x growth in 5 years. There has never been any industry that has grown in 5 years 100x when you deal with molecules. Jens knows it from the dealing with bits. Windows grew, Microsoft grew about that fast, actually about 100-fold in 6 or 7 years. But it's never been done when you deal with molecules. On the other hand, by 2015, between now and 2016, we add roughly about 50 to 70 million cars on the road every year. So if you think about it, on the average of 60 million cars a year, we will add half a billion cars. Let's say only 10 million of them are electric. And let's say only half of them are new cars, the other half are replacements. By that point, we will be at 1 billion cars, billion tailpipes, billion gas tanks. To get 1 billion gas tanks, we need about 120 to 130 million barrels of oil every day. We don't know how to get to 100. And so the problem is such that it's not enough just to get 10 million by 2016. We probably need 100 million electric cars by 2016, or 1,000x growth. Now, if you think about it, that's the biggest industrial opportunity we've ever had as humanity. And it's right in front of our eyes. And in Europe, it will start in Denmark. So those who will be at the forefront of this opportunity will gain a lot as this opportunity materializes over the next 3 to 10 years.
Any further questions? One more.
Will your charging system be open to all kind of consumers and car manufacturers?
Yeah, we've asked from the first second when we dealt with the government, both in Denmark and in all the other locations, but we've had this conversation with the Danish government, to force all companies that will be in the same category as Better Place, electric recharge networks, to force us to do two things. One, only use international standards. So not lock a plug from one vendor or another so that you cannot charge in the network. In a sense, if you think of the sort of the socket on the wall, we need to make sure that all the sockets across Europe for cars will be the same, unlike what we have with our appliances, that everywhere we go we need to figure out sort of a widget that would convert from one to another. The second thing we ask the government is to force every network that comes in place to be open and fully accessible for roaming from one network to the other. Now, it's not a common thing to see that a first mover asks for openness. Usually first movers ask for protectionism. And the reason we ask for openness is because we believe that all newcomers, all competitors that we hope to have in this market will all align around the same set of standards and will all push the consumers to adopt faster. In a sense, we're optimizing for speed instead of optimizing for greed. And with that in mind, we hope to get a faster switching of consumers from any source of energy to electric. There is such a big market that even if we have less than a maximum percent by protectionism, we will still be a profitable company, as I promised Anders, and a great investment. So it would be beneficial for all newcomers. Just to put it in perspective, Europe spent this year about a trillion euro at the gas pump, at the gas stations. So if you understand the scope of this market and the scope of investment that we're putting to get into a market of this magnitude, it's a tremendous opportunity.
Terrific. With that, I'd like to thank you all for attending our press event today. And this concludes our event. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Held og lykke med det. Jeg er sikker på, at vi ikke bliver skuffet i. Så det skal være en stor. Ja, godt.